separated into three parts. And so now we're talking about all the bones that are not blue. Those are the bones that ultimately make up our appendicular skeleton. So all the bones that are not blue are bones of the appendicular skeleton. And our appendicular skeleton begins with something called our shoulder girdle. And our shoulder girdle is made up of two bones that ultimately allows our upper extremity to attach itself to the torso. So the shoulder girdle are these two bones, our clavicle and our scapula. These two bones allow for the upper arms, for the arms, to attach themselves to the axial skeleton. So the first of the two bones, which we see here in the middle, is this bone. This is your clavicle. So when we think about our clavicle, clavicle is also known as our collarbone, but never called the collarbone, always called the clavicle. This bone has the distinction of being the most frequently fractured bone of the body, a little FYI. And this bone is often mistook for this bone on the test. What's this? It's a rib, right? This is your clavicle. And what'll happen is they'll put a rib out there. They'll never ask you what number rib is this. They'll just say, what bone is this? And you say rib. Or they put this one out there and they'll say, name this bone. You say clavicle. What's the difference between the two?
One's in this shape, one looks like a C.
One's a C, one's an S, right? Ribs don't have an S shape. Ribs have a C shape, right? So when you're looking at these two bones, if it has an S shape, it has to be the clavicle, right? You don't need to know parts of the clavicle. You just need to know that this bone is indeed the clavicle. The other bone of our shoulder girdle is this bone. This bone is our scapula, which we can see here. And our scapula, whether you're looking at it from the back, which is this point of view, or you're looking at the front, which is this point of view, has a couple ingredients. It has a couple parts that you are responsible for. They love to ask a question about the scapula and the parts of the scapula, because there's a variety of them. So, first and foremost, as we look at our scapula from the back side, so we're looking at it from the posterior point of view, we should see this nice little ridge of bone that kind of runs across the back of the scapula. This is the spine of the scapula. Spine of the scapula. And as the spine of the scapula moves further away, it flattens. And I'm pinching the area of the scapula, of the spine of the scapula that flattens. This flattened area of the scapula is called the acromion. And if you remember studying in anatomical terms, the point of the shoulder was what part of this body? What was this called? Acromial, right? So underneath the acromial part of the body is the acromion, right? So it all kind of links together. Yeah, this happens to be a right scapula, so it would sit like so, obviously on the back of my body, right? So this is the anterior surface. The spine ultimately separates two of our rotator cuffs from one another, and it works as an attachment for big muscles. The acromion ultimately is kind of an umbrella over the top portion of our shoulder joint. And the acromion is what connects to the clavicle to give us a joint called our AC joint, right up here in the front. In the front of our scapula, we have a little nose-looking projection here. This is called the coracoid process. And I think I have an anterior picture here, which will show it a little better. So you can see the coracoid process right here, as we look at it from the anterior point of view. So this is the coracoid process. There are two angles. One's on the top and one is on the bottom. This, the one on the top is called the superior angle. The one on the bottom is called the inferior angle. So you can see the superior angle up here and the inferior angle down here. And then last but not least, as you look on the inside or the lateral side of this scapula, there's something called the glenoid cavity. This little egg-shaped depression is the glenoid cavity. Ultimately, the glenoid cavity is what allows for the humerus to attach to our scapula, making our shoulder joint. So the glenoid cavity is what allows for the humerus attached and gives us our shoulder joint. Everybody cool with the portions of your scapula? Mark you up. Now we get to the bones of the upper extremity. The first one is our humerus. This is your humerus. The bone that you will most likely mistake this for is this one. This is your what? This is your femur. All right, where does this one go? This one goes down here, where the humerus, this goes up here. This is the upper arm bone. So it makes sense in that regard, but when you look at them side by side, they look really nothing alike, right? One is significantly bigger than the other. Now, the one thing I will tell you on the next lab exam, when they put a bone out, you can pick the bone up and try to place it on your body, right? But keep in mind, if you put it in a really funny place, I will laugh at you. Because it's funny as shit. It really, really is. To see someone take this bone and put it like here, I'm going to laugh, all right? That's a good sign that where you're putting it is wrong. And I kid you not, I had a lady in my class a few years ago who tried to take this bone and she was trying to figure out if it fit here. And I found it so hysterically funny, and I started laughing a little bit. I tried to stifle it as best I could, but I couldn't help it. It was really funny because she was perplexed as to where this went. And I'm like, damn, that's funny. So you're allowed to pick it up, you're allowed to put it on your own body and try to find where you think it fits. All right, just keep in mind, I'm watching you.
When I'm doing that, can I make eye contact and you laugh?
No.
And let me
No. I'm going to try my hardest not to laugh because it can come across as being rude and mean, and I don't want to be rude and mean. But if I laugh, it's a good sign. Don't put that bone down. That's not right. All right, so this is your humerus. This is ultimately the bone of your upper arm, or the brachial bone. And this bone has a couple parts that you are also responsible for. As you look at the proximal half of the bone, there's this little ball-like area. This is called the head of the humerus. This is ultimately what's going to attach to the glenoid cavity to make our shoulder joint. So you have the head of the humerus. There's two little bumps on the back side of the head of the humerus. One of them is big, one of them is small. One of them is big, one of them is small. The bigger one is called the greater tubercle. So this one, which is bigger, is the greater tubercle. This one, which is smaller, is called the lesser tubercle. We attach our rotator cuffs to these two little bumps. Now, as you move down the shaft of the bone, or the diaphysis of the bone, and these things have been handled so many times they've worn off, there's actually a bump midway down the shaft of our humerus called the deltoid tuberosity. And even though they really don't exist on these bones anymore, they've been worn and rubbed so well, there's a little remnant of it
like
here.
around the tape kind of.
Yeah, just below it. If they point down here and they say this is the blank part of the bone, the only option you have is deltoid tuberosity. And as we get to the bottom of the bone, or the distal end of the bone, there's a couple little spots that are important. And they love to ask one of these too. As we look at the very bottom of the bone, we have the parts of this bone that make up the joint of the elbow. One half is called the trochlea, the other half is called the capitulum. One half is called the trochlea. So this is the trochlea. Everything from my thumbs, my index finger is the trochlea. And then everything from my index finger to index finger, this is called the capitulum. So this little ball-like structure is the capitulum. And this little smoothed out section in between my index fingers here is called the trochlea. Trochlea and capitulum. They ask them very, very frequently, one or the other very frequently. I'd say 50% of the time. And then the last part of the humerus that you're responsible for is this little notch right here. This notch is called the olecranon fossa. So you want to make sure you label all of those particular parts of the humerus.